Three, two, one, go.
Welcome into PressBox Live. I'm Stan the Fan Charles of PressBox and PressBoxOnline.com. And with me, I guess I can use the term friend now, as someone who's been with us 3 or 4 times, and that's John Martin, who's the director of the Maryland Lottery and Sports Wagering. John, how are you tonight?
I'm doing well, Stan. How are you? And yeah, I hope you can call me friend by now.
I feel that. I feel very warm whenever we're together, all right? In a friendly sort of way. Hey, I got to tell folks that we, of course, are brought to you by the Costas Inn, and you'll hear a little bit more about them later on during the interview. But we're also brought to you by AJ Michaels, expert and award-winning AJ Michaels Heating, AC, Plumbing, and Home Performance will improve your home's energy efficiency and comfort levels. AC season is coming up fast. New rebates and discounts are available. More at ajmichaels.com. And John Martin joins us, director of the Maryland Lottery and Sports Gaming. And John, I know you've spent time around the country. Nothing like spring to heat wave like Baltimore, is there? Like where all of a sudden it's very pleasant and then it's almost unbearable.
You know what? Every day's a pleasant day here at the lottery, Stan.
That's a good way to put it, very diplomatically. I'll tell you who had a good day the other day is Barbara Phelps Anderson. Watching the Oriole game the other night, and I know Ryan Mountcastle hit the home run, and all of a sudden I hear that we just gave away $50,000, and I like double click, but I didn't understand. And I said, it must be something to do with the 50th anniversary celebration. Fill us in on the details and how anybody can, is there going to be more 50,000 winners?
Well, we certainly hope so, Stan. This was a fun promotion, and 50 years in the making. The lottery began in 1973, so we thought to celebrate one of the many things we're doing in our 50th anniversary year, we have some fun with the Baltimore Orioles promotion. As you may know, and I'm sure many of your fans know, that for the last several years we've had a home run riches payoff contest, where throughout the Orioles season we select fans who submit their entries, one for each game, the contestant of the game, and they automatically win $500 for being selected. And then for every O's home run hit in a game, they get an additional $500. Well, that was fine for the first 49 years, but on our 50th year, we thought, you know what? Let's make this interesting. Let's give some lucky fan $50,000 when the O's hit their 50th home run. And we looked at some past years. We said, oh, that'd be about the beginning of June. Not this year.
The Orioles are hitting them at a pretty good clip this year.
Yeah, the boys came loaded this year. And so on May 16th, Barbara Phelps Anderson of Shadyside. Stan, do you know where Shadyside, Maryland is?
Isn't it toward like Annapolis, Severna Park?
It's in Anne Arundel County, and I'm only a part-timer. I've only been here 12 years. I had no idea where it was.
Okay,
but
I've heard of Shadyside. I can't say that I've ever been there.
Well, they're celebrating tonight, and they certainly were on the 16th. For being
I might try and look up Barbara Phelps Anderson and see what she's doing tomorrow night.
Right. But she's a great Orioles fan and has been for years. She attended the opening game of the 1983 World Series with the Phillies.
That's great.
So it's great when someone who's a devoted fan paid attention to the contest, knew exactly what was happening, tracking home runs, knew she was going to be the contestant on the 16th. One home run early in the game, made it 49, and then the wait. And in the 6th inning, bottom of the 6th, Ryan Mountcastle came right up, and there you go, $50,000 later.
Now, how was she selected? She was just randomly selected to be the contestant that day. And it so happened that the 50th home run was hit on her watch.
We try to get ahead of it. So at the beginning of each month, we select, based on entries submitted by the fans, we select all the games for that upcoming month.
Okay.
So we knew at the end of April who was going to have every game in May, and we knew it was going to be close. And we tried to promote to fans, hey, watch for your name, watch the home run count, watch the tally, and then get excited. And Barbara Phelps Anderson of Shadyside certainly was excited when that home run left the stadium.
That's great. I remember the time many, many years ago I forgot they had an aspect. It was a bank was sponsoring it like 35 years ago. And Gary Renicky hit a grand slam home run that won somebody a lot of money, you know.
I've heard that story. It wasn't on my watch, but I'm sorry it wasn't. But this one was, and you know what? That's not the only $50,000 winner. We thought what we do is keep one in the back pocket. So at the end
Okay.
of the season, we'll award a second lucky contestant of the game $50,000 at the end of the season. So continue to visit your lottery retailers. Check the mdlottery.com for the games coming up. And at the end of the season, we'll draw for a second $50,000 winner.
Well, and it's way early, so we don't have to get an answer. Is that going to be pegged to like the 150th home run or is it going to be, or is it just going to be a random, hey, tonight, if we hit a home run, somebody's going to win $50,000?
You know what? It's less dramatic than that, Stan. I wish I would have had you at the table when we were putting the plans together. We're going to draw the 162 games, and then we'll draw a 163rd contestant who will automatically win. So no game, no home run even involved at this point. They just have to be in the pool, in the virtual
pool.
hopper to be selected.
And entering that is, do you have to send in a used lottery ticket or just your name, address, and, you know, information?
Yeah, you have to have purchased a fast play ticket, our home run riches ticket, and then you enroll in your My Lottery Rewards account online, and you put in the code off that ticket, and that'll get you into the drawing, and you can enter as often as you'd like, because the input are accumulated throughout the season. All the entries will count at the end of the year.
So it's interesting. Seth Elkins, who sends out a lot of your PR promotional information, and he made the point that I knew that Barbara Phelps Anderson also won $1,500 more that night for the amount of home runs hit and her $500 for being selected.
Right. I mean, she had a good night, Stan. I don't know about you and I, what we were doing on the 16th, but she had a good night.
All right. Hey, John, before we get into talking about some interesting sports wagering and total numbers on gaming in the state, I did want to talk a little bit more about this 50th anniversary. I know the home run thing is just one small aspect of this. You're doing all kinds of things. Can you let our viewers know what else is in the offing in the next few weeks?
Yeah, coming up actually next week, next Wednesday, the 24th, is the actual anniversary, 50 years ago to the day, May 24th, 1973, of our very first lottery drawing. So to commemorate that, we're going to be offering cash prizes on a random basis to any player around the state who happens to buy a draw game ticket that day. That's our pick 3, pick 4, pick 5, Powerball, Mega Millions, Keno, Racetracks, anything that comes off the computer on a random basis. We'll have cash prizes being awarded over $1 million total in cash prizes around the state.
Wow. Now that's nice that you're doing that. But in other words, your information and focus groups and stuff, that's going to hype up people. That the idea is to hype up people buying more tickets.
Well, absolutely. I mean, as you know, the money that we generate, the revenue, the profits go to the state of Maryland, to the general fund and other worthy causes. And in addition to the big promotion on May 24th, we'll have another promotion that will run through the spring and summer called our Cash Bash Anniversary. Again, enter your tickets. Every $50 purchase you make cumulatively will get you an entry into another drawing at the state fair. We'll have 10 winners, Stan, attend the fair with one of those 10 winners, the chance to win up to, are you sitting down, Stan? $5 million at the state fair.
Wow. That's serious money.
It starts to add up, doesn't it?
What are the tax implications if I would win that?
Well, you certainly want to get an advisor. You want to get somebody who can help you with the calculations.
But I'll bet my friendship with you now has ruled me ineligible for that, probably.
Right.
Hey, that's the 50th anniversary. Anything else going on later in the year? I mean, this is going to run. You're going to have stuff going throughout the calendar year of 2023, right?
Oh, absolutely. And I would encourage, again, people to go to mdlottery.com to take a list and take a look at the scratch off games that are coming into the marketplace, the draw game promotions that I've already talked about. Just keep close tabs on that because there's a lot to do here in our anniversary year. We're very excited about it, and the feedback from players and retailers alike has been very, very positive.
All right. I think you should do some of the same stuff in the 51st year.
Yeah, well,
That's just my idea.
Yeah.
We're talking with John Martin, who's the director of the Maryland Lottery and Sports Gaming. And John, I think I'll take my time out now to talk about the Costas Inn, and then we can do a little bit of extended talk about sports gaming and wagering of all kinds in the state of Maryland. But one thing's a sure bet, and that's the sponsor I've known for close to 30 years now, and that's the Costas Inn. They've been located over 50 years. They must have opened up, John, right around the time the lottery went into business, and I know they've had some winners out at the Costas Inn over the years. They've been a loyal place you can purchase your lottery tickets. But that's not what you want to hear. You want to hear about the crabs, right? It's crab season. This is a great time of year because you've been waiting all winter to get that appetite for hot steamed crabs. Well, you can't just walk in there. You can take a chance on it, but to make it a sure bet, you call ahead and reserve your crabs. They've got all different kinds of sizes, small, medium, large, and whalers. But call the Costas Inn 410-477-1975. Make this like a little crab eating vacation for you and your family, but call ahead. The Costas Inn 410-477-1975. We continue with John Martin. And John,
hey Stan, before you do, let me
yes.
add a little on the Costas Inn
Yes.
promo there. Last month we had the opportunity to sit with Pete and his people there at Costas Inn and acknowledge their participation. You're right; they have been with us literally from day one, and we acknowledged about 36 retailers, legacy retailers. Costas being the first one, and we went out and made special presentations, gave them a plaque. And they are very, very great partners with us and have been for several years.
Yeah, they do a great job out there in so many ways. And it's really like you feel like you're eating home cooking out there at the Costas Inn. Thank you for saying that. That'll score me some bonus points with them. I try and get bonus points with the Costas Inn. Hey, the sports gaming numbers came out about 10 days ago, the April numbers. Pretty eye-popping numbers. But am I right? They're slight declines from March, correct? And that's probably to be expected because you had the kickoff of a lot of the sports gaming places.
Yeah, absolutely. And when you look at a sports calendar for the year, there are a couple of things that jump off the calendar. March Madness being one of them.
Super Bowl
obviously being the other, and the whole NFL season. So you're going to have peaks and valleys, and everybody in the industry had a great March. Everyone in the industry had a less, but still good April.
Right.
Because as you know, the tournament actually extended into the first weekend of April. So our numbers were $3.8 million to the state in the month, coming off of $5.3 million in March. But still, back-to-back very strong months. May, June, July, August are going to be a little slower because the calendar just doesn't reflect a lot of betting options. And then it'll pick up again with the kickoff of the season. But overall, I think we're in a strong place. Our fiscal year-to-date numbers, Stan, in terms of revenues to the state, are between $17 and $18 million. Now, we've been forecasting all along that once everything is up and running, and we're not close to that yet, but when everything is up and running, we'll be in about the $25 million annual return to the state. So at this point, we'll probably be just north of 20 million for this fiscal year and not being anywhere close to fully operational.
And again, that number is the contribution to the state. The numbers, the handle numbers are just off the charts.
Well, here I'm looking at my cheat sheet because some of these numbers you can't possibly keep in your head. Yeah, our handle to date for the fiscal year on both retail and mobile is over $2.3 billion.
Woo. That's just eye-popping. Really is eye-popping.
I think Maryland has done well nationally. I think we surprised a few folks. a little bit later to the party than other jurisdictions.
Yep.
But after us, you had strong openings in Massachusetts and Ohio. So they're just blowing by our numbers. So it doesn't necessarily mean you had to be the first in the market. It's really when you got in and how strong your programs are.
Question about because it's interesting you mentioned, I do a little sports wagering now, and baseball happens to be my thing. I know that that's a fraction of it, but every time I sign on, I've got to go through the thing to verify my location. Will there ever be a time, and I understand that, and I'm guessing the answer is no to this, but will there ever be a time where they won't need my location? Or is it so every state is so separate, wanting to know how much money was wagered in that state, that we'll always need some type of sign-in to verify location?
Yeah, and it's not so much the money the state stands as it is that some jurisdictions don't have legal mobile gaming operations. So and you see that all the time. And we noticed that when we opened up our mobile wagering right before Thanksgiving. We're getting people from Virginia and Pennsylvania where it is legal, but still trying to get into the Maryland system to take advantage of the Maryland new sign up offers.
Right.
So you're always going to have this geo-fencing. It's always going to be there because different promotions, different offers. Further out west you go, or some of the states that don't have gaming at all, you have to make sure that you're offering it within the statute and limitations of the state that you're operating in.
Will it ever be quicker? I'm sure the guys that run those websites think it's pretty darn quick, but when you're repeatedly going onto a site several times a day to check different game options and bets, will it ever be more almost instantaneous, knowing that you're legitimately in that state?
Yeah, there are things that I'm sure they're always working on. Again, we as regulators keep an arm's length away from what the operators do, as long as they're compliant with the rules and regulations and the statute. We give them the discretion to manage it, and player feedback dictates that, right? I mean, people will voice their opinions. They'll vote with their dollars. If some operator sees a fall off, it probably means that they're not offering the services that their players want and expect, and they'll go elsewhere.
I know you're not promoting the newest player in the game. It's called Superbook. I'm sure you're very well aware of it. They're located, and they just opened at Camden Yards. But it's very interesting, and I know we're going to have somebody on from Superbook in a couple weeks. So I'm not asking you to sort of promote why they do it that way. Is that surprising to you that there aren't kiosks at their location, that they're expecting their people to come in there to eat a meal, drink, watch sports, and bet only on their phone?
Well, that goes back to the original legislation, Stan. I mean, when we were started working on this back in the spring of 2021, we knew that each potential licensee is going to have their own parameters. And initially, as you know, the licenses were identified in statute. There were 17 entities for the initial retail locations. And then as the mobile licenses became available in 2022, we saw, again, people gravitating. Maybe they were pairing up, maybe they're going by themselves. So, each entity makes that business decision as to whether they're going to have retail only, or retail and mobile, or mobile without a retail dance partner, if you will. And certainly Superbook's a great name in the industry. The Orioles, in their conversations with Superbook, certainly worked out a plan that works for them and their fans, and meets what they're trying to do. And again, our role is to be an arm's length from that and just make sure that what they do, it works and consumers are protected, but we really don't have any skin in the game as to how they go to market.
Okay. It's just very interesting. And I've talked to them about it, and they just, that's their game. Their game plan is to have people go in there, get a gaming environment, but do it all on their phone.
I tell you what's interesting, and you didn't ask the question, so I'm going to break the code here of guests. Don't answer a question that the host hasn't offered, but there are going to be some interesting things in the months ahead, and I'll throw one out to you. I'll lob a softball back to you. Certainly the Dan Snyder sale of the Commanders.
Yeah.
The FedEx Field was in the initial statute as having the potential to have a retail location. And they do, in fact, have Fanatics, the first NFL sports book in a stadium right there in Landover. And now all eyes are going to be turned on once the NFL approves the ownership. And I got to think everyone expects that to go and be approved. We have to see what happens next. I don't know what the terms of sale are going to be. We don't know what's being transferred from Snyder to Harris. And so there can be some potential interesting maneuvers down the road when you have an existing licensee, like in this case, the license at FedEx Field, and what that may mean in the future.
Yeah, it's interesting you say that. I know that several years ago when the Major League Baseball forced the sale of the Dodgers, one of the things that Frank, forget his name, he owned the Dodgers. Frank, he and his wife was from Baltimore. Her name was Jamie Luskin. But anyway, he was in the parking lot business in Massachusetts. And when they forced him to sell, he said, okay, I'll sell, but I'd keep the parking lots. And I think you're alluding to something like that. Maybe Dan Snyder potentially keeps part of that license. We'll see.
Well, yeah, it's hard to know how that's going to play out. So until we see the contract, and first of all, we don't have first right. The NFL and the owners will make that call first, and then as things cascade down, we'll see what happens. But I mentioned Fanatics as being at FedEx Field. They also made headlines recently in making an acquisition for PointsBet on a national level. So that will be interesting to see. PointsBet is one of our current licensees with the Riverboat location down on the Potomac. So that will be interesting to see once that final bill of sale goes through. And that's several months out. That may be towards third or fourth quarter of the year.
Yeah.
But that may be another case where there'll be some maneuvering.
I just did read today that the NFL has said that they will not, the owners are meeting next week in Minneapolis, Sunday and Monday, but they will not vote on this sale, that they have to vet the new group. And it's a 12-member group, and they need to vet all 12 members of that. The likelihood of them passing those pretty good because they also own the New Jersey Devils and the Philadelphia 76ers. So it looks like that will pass sometime before the football season starts. It shouldn't shock me, but the percentage of the handle for sports wagering that is mobile, it's overwhelming that it's like 9.5%. I mean, 9.5 out of 10 people are betting sports wagering on their mobile device.
Yeah, it should shock you. It shocks me. When we started this back in 21 and really started to look at what the market would look like back then, way back then in 2021, conventional wisdom was you could expect mobile to be 80, maybe 85% of the handle. We came out of the block strong and it's never looked back. And that's the same with other contemporary jurisdictions. And I think you're seeing it even in the more mature jurisdictions. I think you chalk it up to all the competition on the mobile side. You chalk it up to the offers, the incredible spend made by the books to get market share.
Yep.
And you look at it now and you're right, we're at like 97.5% of the activities coming through the mobile platform. I don't see that ever going down to 80.
No, I don't either. I think people have gotten accustomed to it. The more that they get used to it on their phone or tablet, I think they're going to stick with that game plan. Any other new players due to get in the market in the next 2 to 4 months?
Yeah, I think it's going to be an interesting time. Recall earlier I talked about the calendar being a little softer now through the spring and summer months, and the heavy play will pick up again with the football season. So I think correspondingly we'll see some people maybe slow rolling it here over the next couple of months, but they'll pick up as we get closer to training camp and the prospect of the NFL season. Today, Stan, we have 10 retail books and 9 mobile books, so 19 total. But we have licensed with Swark's assistance about another 10 to 12. They just haven't gone through their final control demonstration and their issuance of the license. So we've got a bullpen, if you will, that's about 10, 12 deep of people. And then beyond that, there's probably another half dozen that we haven't even begun to vet because of whatever, they don't have their information in, whatever, but they've paid their application fee. So the potential exists in January of 2024 to have 40 sports books. We have 19 today, and I think the market is a little crowded.
Any of the smaller ones, do you get the sense that everybody is handling their business well? And, because you and I have talked about it in the past, some of these people may not know what they're getting into. They think it's very easy money to make. It's a lot of manpower and a lot of hours involved with this.
Yeah, it is a challenge. And I think, I don't think it's sustainable. I think even if we got north of the 19 we're at now, 25, 30, and then we ever got to 40, boy, I think over the course of that initial term, and they're 5-year terms, Stan, if you recall, once people get in and apply, they have a 5-year initial term. So even if they're trying to hang on to sell that license after 5 years, that could be a long pull for some of these folks.
Yeah. Okay. Hey, last thing I got, and I hope you'll visit with me periodically, and we'll do this again in a couple months.
Sure.
But a lot of money being wagered. I know the state stresses that if you have a problem, if you're a problem gambler at all, and it might sound contradictory or BS for us to say that because we spend so much money advertising on getting gamers to play. But if you are a problem gambler, John, what's the first thing people should do?
Well, you're right, Stan. We take that responsibility very seriously, and the reality is 95% of the population plays responsibly. They play within their limits. They enjoy it as entertainment, and they have fun with it, and it entices their engagement. But we know about 5% of the population struggle with it, and whether it's chasing losses or just having other factors in your life, depression, anxiety, whatever. There are resources. And I think one of the best options we have in our 1-800-GAMBLER phone number is the access, is we have peer-to-peer consultants in who can talk to people who have been there, people who have walked in those shoes, people who have struggled with addictions. And they are available to talk peer-to-peer to people, no cost to Maryland residents. It's a great program we have in collaboration with our friends at the University of Maryland Center of Excellence. They do a fantastic job, and help is available not only for the addicted person, but for families, because Stan, as you may know, a lot of times those people are in too deep and they need a family member, a loved one who is equally affected to maybe bridge that first call.
Yeah. 1-800-GAMBLER. And we'll end it on that note. It's been an uplifting story tonight from John Martin, director of the Maryland Lottery, but we don't ever want to lose sight of the fact that there are a small percentage of people that are problem gamblers. 1-800-GAMBLER. John Martin of the Maryland State Lottery, director of the lottery, and also sports gaming. Preakness is coming up. Can you bet, before we let you go, can you bet on your if you're FanDuel, DraftKings, Superbook, can you bet on the Preakness?
That's a great question, Stan. You're going to leave me with this, and I'm going to say I don't know. I haven't looked at the catalogs to know what you can and can't do on the Preakness. I'm sure some of the books have that as an option. I honestly don't have a good answer for you.
Well, I'll tell you, DraftKings surprised me because I went to bet on the Derby. I had money in my account in the sports book. They force you to put money into what's known as DK, which stands for DraftKings, but DK something or other. And I chose not to do it. I just said, something, I should be able to use my sports book money to bet on that. But I'm sure they have a perfectly sensible reason for doing it that way.
Stan, you impress me as the kind of guy who has the racing form tucked under one arm and a cigar, and you're there at trackside.
Hey, I used to be. I had a real problem with horse racing when I was late teens. Luckily, I grew out of it, John. I started working too hard for my money.
There you go. Well, good luck.
Right. Hey, again, a lot of good stuff going on. 50th anniversary of the Maryland State Lottery, which started in May 28th, was it?
May 24th was our first drawing.
May 24th, first drawing in 1973. 50 years ago, what's the best website to go to, John?
Yeah,
So
all
check
the
it out.
information about the 50th anniversary and everything we've been talking about here today, mdlottery.com.
All right. Many thanks for joining us again. Enjoy the
Thank
rest
you,
of
Ken.
your spring and we'll talk soon. Okay.
Look forward
John
to it.
Martin, thank our friends at the Costas Inn for sponsoring all of our Zooms. And again, AJ Michaels, expert and award-winning AJ Michaels Heating, AC, Plumbing, and Home Performance will improve your home's energy efficiency and comfort levels. AC season is coming up fast. New rebates and discounts are available. More at ajmichaels.com. For Pressbox, I'm Stan the Fan. He's John Martin. And I'll see you Monday night with Luke Jackson and Ross Grimsley, and we'll talk some O's baseball. Bye.